In this lesson, we'll break down who our ancestors are. We'll start with blood ancestors or blood kin first. Our blood ancestors or our blood kin are the ancestors of the body, of the earth element. Our blood ancestors include blood ancestors or recently deceased relatives. These can include parents, grandparents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, anyone who is related to you biologically. Our blood ancestors or our blood kin are ancestors of the body or of the earth element. When most people hear the term ancestors, they typically think of blood ancestors. This group includes your parents, their grandparents, and so on, tracing back through generations to the beginning of time. We all share a unique connection with our blood ancestors, as they physically created us, providing the foundation upon which we will build all other aspects of our lives. Deceased relatives. In dreams, ancestors may appear as individuals or a collective. Recently deceased relatives may look as you remember them or may appear young. These ancestors can be challenging to work with due to the profound nature of death. Praying for them, offering cool water, light, and a soft white cloth can ease their passage to the afterlife. On my altar, I also leave large coins, like the big giant half dollars, to help them cross. When I dream of the dead, I've seen many different things. When my aunt passed away, I saw her hanging on the rung of a ladder, and the ladder was being lifted up. And this could be construed as Jacob's ladder. I had a friend come to me who passed away, and he showed me a map that was the river Styx and all the souls in the river. He told me I was the only one who knew how to get who knew how to read this map and would help him navigate it. And that was how I found out that I do psychopomp work. My son's grandmother passed away when he was little. She came to me in a dream in a cafeteria and said she thought she had been sick and in the hospital. And I had to explain to her that she had passed away and she hadn't realized it. She looked very upset. Then she got up and left. I had visited my grandmother once after my son was born. She was in a big, tall apartment building, and then you could look out of this window, like it had a big window on the side of the apartment, and it looked like a park or something similar below her building that you could see. My uncle passed away, and I was getting ready to go on a trip to New York with my son for Christmas. And we were going to take the train, which was like a 3-hour train ride to get there. But in my dream, he told me he could get me there in less time. He would get me there faster. So eventually, my cousin found out, not one of his children, found out I was going to New York. And she said that she heard if we take the bus, we could get there in an hour and a half. So we took the bus and we got there in an hour and a half, and he got me there faster. So there's many different ways they may appear and many different ways they may help. You just have to look for the synchronicities once they come by and give you a heads up. One time I had a dream. Someone had recently passed away, and I think it was in the yoga community. They were like a higher up yoga person or a Buddhist person. I can't remember exactly who they were, but they had come up in a group I was in that they had passed away, and they were well known in that community. Well, I had a dream about them, and I saw them in a silver, it was like a silver landscape with this big silver white tree that had blue on it, like blue, different color blue leaves. and he was happy to be there. He was grabbing the water because it was the water that you drank that would help you forget the life you passed from so you could return to a new life. So I think he was doing a quick turnaround. This is also part of Greek mythology. So I found that interesting that not only him, but my one friend who had the river Styx were, hinting towards the Greek mythology was an actual thing that happens when people passed. There's a lot of different stories around deceased relatives for me anyway. So on my altar, like I said, I'll keep a large coin, those big, giant, old-fashioned half dollars. It was something I had read about in a psychopomp book that I came across that the person who ferries a ferryman who takes them across from one side to the other over the river Styx prefers those bigger coins, the smaller ones, as a token to help people cross. So I leave a big half dollar on my altar in case anybody needs it. They can take it with them and help them cross. Lineage ancestors or ancestors of the heart. We also have ancestors of the heart, which is related to the element of water. Lineage ancestors can include people from being adopted, partnerships, intuition, and spirit guides. Or not intuition, I'm sorry, initiations and spirit guides. Lineage ancestors can be foster parents, beloved friends, step parents, deceased spouses, and other close companions. If there was mutual love, they count. Some ancestors are not part of our direct bloodline, but are considered close due to certain formalities. These are lineage ancestors who are often adopted through binding papers or rituals that simulate rebirth. They can include the ancestors of adopted parents, ancestral in-laws through marriage, or those acquired when formally adopted into an initiatory lineage. These ancestors generally receive similar honors as blood relatives. As discussed in the previous section, if you were adopted, you have both maternal and paternal biological lines, as well as maternal and paternal adoptive lines. It is not necessary for you to know all their names. They are connected to you through blood, bone marrow, hope, sacrifice, and spirit. If you were adopted, take time to reflect on your relationship with both your biological and adoptive families. Trust your instincts on whether to honor one line or more, or both equally. Even if one lineage seems aloof initially, it may become more engaged as you continue. Like relationships with family members, connections with ancestors can evolve. Partnership. As marriages become less common and alternative relationship arrangements become more frequent, it may be necessary to consider whether your partner's ancestors can be regarded as lineage ancestors for you. If you're not married but are contemplating whether your partner's ancestors serve as your lineage ancestors or vice versa, evaluate if you have made any formal declaration of commitment to each other in the presence of your families and community. Significant rituals such as baptisms, coming of age ceremonies, graduations, weddings, or funerals may foster a sense of closeness. These occasions call for proper conduct and can be times when divination is considered powerful. If deemed suitable for both of you, you and your partner might consider honoring your ancestors through a shared altar. Initiation. Initiation is a formal admittance into a closed society marked by a ritual. Most people know initiation from spiritual traditions, which include ceremonies in various cultures. The concept of apo- apostolic, apostolic succession is one form of initiation where spiritual authority is transmitted through successive leaders. Initiations can also occur in secular contexts, such as universities, where doctoral graduates are recognized by a handshake from university authorities, tracing back to the institution's founders. This signifies the power of initiation and lineage in both spiritual and academic settings. But what does honoring your ancestors first mean? The approach to honoring one's ancestors can vary among individuals. One might begin by presenting offerings to their blood ancestors before engaging in other spiritual activities, such as tarot card readings or spell casting. Alternatively, one might start the day with prayer to their ancestors upon waking. Honoring them first signifies recognizing the initial spiritual pact made with this group, which is your decision to be born into their lineage. All other partnership, initiations, affiliations follow this fundamental connection. Maintaining a strong relationship with your blood ancestor can also serve as your primary defense against hostile spirits. Once you establish a good relationship with them, you can call upon their assistance with dealing with unwelcome spirits that may enter your home or follow you. This method is often simpler and more effective than complex banishing rituals. As you deepen your ancestor veneration practice, you may find yourself gravitating towards a group of ancestors who are not related by blood. You might feel a stronger connection to your spouse's ancestors, or focus more on practices involving your guides, or feel drawn to ancestors with whom you share a particular affinity, such as a common location or interest. This is entirely normal, but it remains important never to neglect your blood ancestors, as they have much to teach us. Incorporating bodywork, including yoga, breathwork, and massage into your practice with your blood ancestors can be beneficial. You may invoke them before engaging in these activities, or you may find that these modalities facilitate communication with them. Often, messages from our ancestors manifest as bodily sensations, but we'll explore that further in another class when I get more in towards mediumship. So for my practice, I get up in the morning, I clear off anything from the day before. I use tea candles for all my stuff because they'll only burn for so long. So in the morning, I get up and I clear all the old tea candle things from the day before out. You can do that at night before bed if you want. It depends on how you want to do your practice. Everybody's practice is different. Then I go through and I set new candles out for the day, depending on what day it is. Certain deities or ancestors will make it different. Um, they'll get different incenses depending on what day it is. And then I'll wake up and I light the candles and I do my prayer. And I start with my ancestral altar and then I go around to each different altar in turn. Every altar gets a prayer, every altar gets a candle. I reset my offerings. I do it weekly. You can do it daily, but I do mine weekly. It's something that I asked and they were good with, so that's why we do it that way. Like I said, every practice is different, so yours may be different than mine. Depends on what you and your ancestors or any deities that come up for you agree to or works for both of you. Affinity ancestors or ancestors of the mind. There are ancestors of the mind or air or the element of air. Ancestors of the mind or air include influential figures like teachers and writers who shape your thinking. Affinity ancestors share your vocations or cultural identities, such as poets, considering all historic poets as affinity ancestors. Unlike lineage ancestors, there is no formal connection, so they typically expect less in terms of honor. Affinity ancestors are concerned with qualities you share with them. For example, deceased poets may help with writer's block publication. Honoring Affinity Ancestors reminds everyone of their history, especially those excluded from official narratives. Spiritual ancestors. And lastly, there are the ancestors of spirit or fire element. Spiritual ancestors can include saints, spirit guides, or ghosts. Saints include individuals who have performed remarkable deeds that have inspired you and encouraged you to persist on your own journey. You can envision an ancestral altar arranged with various people's names, photographs, and all in the different directions. Since you've got your spiritual ones, which are fire, then you've got the water, earth with your blood. So you can set them up according to the four directions on your altar, as we talked about in the first slide where the four directions are and which um, element they go with. Saints are considered ancestors who attain power through a life of spiritual focus and choose to remain accessible to the living to provide assistance. Saints do not need to be Catholic or even Christian. Numerous spiritual traditions, including Buddhism, Hinduism, and Islam, have concepts akin to sainthood. Peculiar society also demonstrates a natural inclination towards honoring secular saints. For instance, following the musician David Bowie's death in 2016, a memorial emerged outside his New York City residence where people left flowers, candles, and other tributes. This was not due to his death being particularly tragic or untimely, but rather to connect with his spirit. There were hundreds, perhaps thousands, of public displays of mourning and devotion dedicated to him. This was also similar to when Princess Diana died, and there were memorials left for her in various places. There are some celebrities that go beyond what the normal celebrities when they pass away, and David Bowie and Princess Diana were two that I remember that had a really huge impact on everybody. Saints are accessible to all, but many take a particular interest in some individuals. If you were named after a saint or took a saint's name through the Catholic sacrament of confirmation, you may want to explore the relationship, even if you do not adhere strictly to Catholic dogma. Similarly, those born on a saint's festival day may feel a connection. This intrinsic or developed relationship with a saint is called patronage, a term reflecting the historical metaphor of wealthy, powerful individuals supporting their favorite artists. A patron saint will assist you in achieving your soul's purpose by removing obstacles, providing opportunities, and ensuring your basic survival needs are met, provided you continue to work in alignment with the saint's visions for the world. In addition to personal ancestors, shamans, spirit workers, clergy members, diviners, or healers often have spirit guides. These guides are lineage ancestors from a spiritual line rather than a physical one. For example, diviners follow a long tradition of practitioners devoted to their gods, spirits, and community. Their predecessors are considered elders, and the current practitioner continues the work they started. Guides may not be related by blood or lineage, choose to accompany individuals in a life to provide teachings. Unlike saints, guides are specific to individuals within various traditions, such as Spiritism, prevalent in Latin America and the Caribbean. People are believed to have a spiritual court, a group of guides close to them. Some stay for life while others join temporarily. And when I started doing, they call it past life regression. It's not really a therapy, it's not really hypnosis, it's more of a guided meditation. There is a part in there where you can go and meet your spirit guides and your counsel. If anyone's interested in that, you can let me know and we can set something up for that course or for that kind of a session later on. Working with spirits usually involves identifying the guides within one's spiritual core. Although unique to different regions, the concept of a spiritual core is generally beneficial. Individuals exist within a spiritual ecosystem where certain guides are closer for various reasons. As practitioners deepen their ancestral veneration practices, guides may become more communicative through dreams or prayer. Guides tend to work for others more willingly than bloodline ancestors. Therefore, nurturing these relationships is beneficial, particularly for professional diviners or practitioners of magic. Ghosts. While many ancestral spirits are capable of providing assistance, not all deceased individuals possess the ability due to either insufficient power or experiencing spiritual unrest. These souls, often referred to as ghosts, might be troubled by unresolved issues from their lives, such as homicide victims seeking justice or mothers concerned for the welfare of their children. Ghosts typically seek resolution through interactions with the living, occasionally mirroring the challenges they faced previously. Rather than offering them strength or praying for their intercession, it is advisable to pray for their peace, acceptance of death, and a smooth transition to the next realm. Related spirits. These groups, blood ancestors, lineage ancestors, affinity ancestors, spirit guides, and ghosts, share a common trait. They were all once human and usually appear as individual or collective humans. However, the line between humanity and the rest of the world is blurrier than you might consider. Let's also consider some related spirits encountered during ancestral veneration. Land spirits. The spirits of a particular plot of land may encompass the humans, animals, plants, fungi, and other organisms that were born, lived, or died on that land. It is important to honor these spirits, especially if your family has cultivated a relationship with the land through careful stewardship over multiple generations. These entities preceded your presence and will likely persist beyond it, which itself embodies a significant type of power. House spirits. Some individuals believe that house spirits are akin to land spirits, related either to the land where the house is built or the materials used in construction. You can honor spirits located at key points in your home, such as the spirit of the front door, which may be seen as responsible for allowing other spirits to enter or keeping unwanted spirits out. The specific house spirits you honor will depend on the structure of your home. Apparently, I can't talk today. I'm sorry. Non human ancestors. Humans did not appear suddenly. We evolved from animals, which themselves evolved from fungi and plants. The web of life on Earth is interconnected, indicating that after a certain point, our ancestors and living relatives are not solely human. Ancestral lines may have connections to particular plants or animals, which can be included in ancestral veneration practices. For example, herbalists may treat certain plants with the same respect as their forebears. Due to the blurred boundaries between humans and other life forms, it may also be appropriate to include deceased pets in ancestral veneration practices. Now, I love mugwort. I love working with mugwort, and I hadn't been doing it for a while, but this past week of building this course, it's popped back up for me. I've been wanting to get the plants. I have to see if I can get them because it's considered an invasive species, but I would like to get it through my own, so I have my own mugwort that I can dry and use for different practices that I have or different ways I want to incorporate it into my offerings or any spells I do or any healing I do. So there may be plants that call you. Um, we'll get into deities after we do this. We'll get all the ancestors first, and then we'll work on the deities and others after the fact. This introductory course provides a basic understanding of various practices, with future advanced courses focusing more on shamanic work. You can refer to the Neolithic Shamanism book for insights on land spirits and non human ancestors. This course touches on enough aspects to get you started with ancestral practice. As you progress, you'll recognize deities, land spirits, house spirits, and more. Beginning with the basic ancestor altar and consider including house and land spirits since they're part of your environment. Deities may gradually reveal themselves through dreams or books, which can guide you further. We'll conduct a ritual to connect with our ancestors, discussing different ancestral altars, offerings, and prayers in the next module. I'll include 2 rituals for connecting with ancestors, and I'll see you on there. And this is a cover of the book. Um, this is a basic book that just deals with the beginnings of shamanism. It doesn't get into the deities part. It doesn't get into the. It's just basic. It's the sets the groundwork for working with, I guess, the local spirits and all the spirits that we touched on in here, animal spirits, plant spirits. It just touches on enough of everything to get you started in shamanism. I'm still going through it, but it's a really good book. So if that is something that interests you, it's for um more towards Norse mythology and northern shamanism, European and that area. But anybody can read it. It's shamanism, the deities, everybody. A lot of people will say, "Oh, it's cultural appropriation," but some of those are fading out. So you may be reached out to by someone that you wouldn't consider just because they are just trying to keep their things going and alive. So I think it's interesting and it's something to learn so you can pass it on and on and on so it doesn't get completely snuffed out. I've taken the shamanism course I've taken in person, there's and one online. They've both been towards South American shamanism. I've dabbled in a couple of online courses that was indigenous to North America shamanism. Then I've got kind of called into Celtic and European shamanism. So I'm gonna see. I'd like to see where all the lines are because that's my thing. Is where's everything cross? There's a lot of similarities in all of them, which is fascinating within itself because when they started, none of them were talking to each other, but everybody does almost the same things. So it's fascinating. It's just fascinating. So as I build my practice, I'm going to do what I always do, and that is find all the interconnections and focus on those. But for right now, we're just going to continue on with this and learn about how to get started with the basic ancestral, and then we'll work into how to do connections, offerings, and things like that, and then we'll talk about the deities towards the end.